The most powerful person on the negotiation table is the one that is ready to walk away without a deal. The most powerful person on any negotiation table is the one that is ready to walk away without a deal. The person that must have a deal is usually the weakest and the most powerless on that table. It doesn't matter what the table is, whether it's a negotiation for peace in a marriage, or it's a negotiation for a seat on a board, or it's a negotiation for a stake in the market. It doesn't matter what it is. What is true is that if you have to negotiate anything, a part of you must have a resolve to walk away out of that table without taking anything away. That is when you gain so much power. The idea that transformation through government is the way that nations can grow is what I call permitted slavery. Now let's be clear. Slavery is a necessity for the human condition. What has been abused is slavery. Slave trade is an abuse of slavery. Slavery itself in a flawed world is a necessary experience for any human being at any level. Every human being born of a human is enslaved to something. Don't be deceived by how we show up every day. The truth is, there's no human being on the face of the earth that is not enslaved to something. True freedom is the ability to choose what enslaves you. Such that when you make that choice by yourself, then you are not a slave. You are in what I call permitted slavery, a necessary experience for the human condition. To even be with God at a level, you will be a slave of righteousness. It is that possibilities are contained except you define your level of arrest. Freedom without rules is a vice. The highest level of freedom is psychosis. When you are very free and no one attends to your own decisions and there's nothing that underscores the validity of your claims or your positioning anywhere, then you are naked on the streets walking freely. There's no searching of your understanding. The idea is principles must guide ideas. Emotions, as powerful as they are on their own, creating actions is a disaster. Principles must be subjected to reasoning. Emotions must be subjected to reasoning. And reasoning must be guided by truth before you move into action. Every time society suffers, or business struggle, or families are in chaos, or relationships go sour, essentially two people or more people or one person have moved from E to A, has validated the contents of his own emotions, and from that definition has moved into action. Emotions must be managed because on itself is a self-destructive instrument if it is not subjected to reasoning and guided by truth before you move to action. In the same way, politics on its own must not be an independent variable. It must be guided by principles. Hope is so powerful, but hope is a tool of performance. It does not perform. Such that if all you have is hope, you will be beaten, and your hope itself will be the designer of your weariness. At least the Bible says hope deferred, make. So what's doing the making? The hope in itself is the designer of the weariness when the hope is not converted into results within a specific frame. Am I speaking to you? So part of your understanding, therefore, is to come into a place of power. To realize that you have to be able to build power beyond choices. Your right to choose is low resolution. And every day, motivational speakers, religious leaders in different spheres, the life coaches, and all of the materials of authority and leadership teach you to take advantage of your choice, to hold on to your choice, to let no one take anything away from your right to choose. You are reminded that your right to choose is your ultimate power. In elections, you are told that your voting is your greatest strength. And no matter what you do, die than allow anyone take advantage of your votes. Die than allow anyone to buy your vote, for example. You see, there's a lot of sense in that. Except that your choice in its low resolution is the path to perpetuate your slavery that only the future can interpret. you have to actually begin to open up to possibilities that transcend the limits of your experience, your logic, and to understand that knowledge is not just elastic, infinite. And so that should come with some level of humility. And there are 3 people in the world every time. 3 people at any point in time. The people you see every time, otherwise called the masses. That's where most people are. The people you see when they are appointed, or when they are chosen, or when they emerge, or when they are revealed. Essentially CEOs, politicians, public figures, actors, entertainers, culture shapers. The people you see in front every time are those who govern the thinking and the behavior of the people you see every time. The people you see every time are called the masses. The people who govern their thinking and govern their behavior essentially through 5 instruments. Because every time you hear culture shaping, we are talking about 5 things. How we live, how we love, how we walk, how we play, and how we die. The businesses that impact on those 5 things are shaping culture. The ideas, the philosophies, the ideologies, the music, the poems, anything that will shape culture must impact on those 5 areas. How we live, how we love, how we play, how we work, and how we die. Inside how we die, there's so much going on there, as you can see how economics are being shaped today because of the war going on in Ukraine. Weapons mean a lot for the destiny of your children. Bombs and the way they are designed and the way they put them out are very critical to the destiny for the future of our continent, for the future of the human race as a whole. Right? So part of the equation is to understand that manipulations exist in the human condition. And guess what? Necessarily so. Justifiably so. You have to actually choose the level of manipulation you will be in and the level of propaganda you will promote. To ignore that will make you correct but powerless all the same. That is why a party of good people is also an association of the blind. You really can use good to transform any society. There's a partnership between good and evil that must be understood at a level for you to curate anything tangible within any society because of the irrationality of the human experience in itself. Foolishness is a necessity. If somebody is not foolish, wisdom will not have value. Somebody must consistently define his own foolishness for wisdom to continue to have value, to be potent, and to be relevant. Nobody, therefore, should worry about the nuisance value of foolishness because that is a constant. That is like being worried that people are poor. The poor you will always have. The idea is how to multiply value. When political parties come out and campaign against on the back of corruption, that we are coming to fight corruption, it is honestly, first of all, an indication of the unguardedness of the speaker in itself or the political parties in itself recommending such an event. But the bigger tragedy is the masses who believe that kind of thinking. Do you know that there is a prison and penitentiary system in every country? There's no country in the world without prison. That is proof that there's crime everywhere. Do you understand what I'm saying? Even in Switzerland, where there is peace, they keep the money of criminals across the globe. So that idea of peace and integrity is relative, depending on who is defining it and the kind of media you are listening to. Are we on the same page? Right now, you all believe that you are static, but you are not static. The world is actually moving. Your reality, because of your association with gravity or its place on earth, believe that you are not in motion and you are motionless. But the truth is, we are all spinning right now. But there is a perception, which is a lie to your brain, that you are not moving. But you are moving. I live in the city of Dallas, and I work from there, even though I work in the world. But there is a restaurant in Dallas that is always spinning. When you sit in the restaurant, it doesn't feel that it is spinning, except that your view will be changing. Then you realize that this restaurant is actually spinning. If you sit in a car that is 200 kilometers per hour and it's moving very fast, you will almost grab the driver and say, stop speeding. Because you can feel the speed, you'll be afraid. But a plane is like maybe 1,000 times faster than that car. But when you sit in a plane, because of the association between that experience and gravity, it seems that you are not moving. It seems that the plane is so slow. But you see, that is a lie to your brain, the perception that you are not in motion. The truth is you are so much in motion that your brain is not even ready for that motion. And so there is a lie you have to tell to yourself, such that if you are not able to tell that to yourself, you will be in the prison of your reality. Your reality is untrue. Reality is a partial capture of truth. Truth is a positive reality beyond facts, beyond logic, and beyond reality. The only way you can use faith is to understand that truth transcends the limits of facts, because facts themselves are manipulatable instruments that all power blocks must understand. There's nothing called enemy anywhere. The idea of enemy is a very safe conversation amongst the masses. At the highest level of power, there's collaboration between good, evil, and God. Because what is good is not necessarily God. All that is God is good, but there's so much more in good that is not God at all. In the Garden of Eden, there was a tree there. There was a tree of life, and then another tree of good and evil. The instruction was not to eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. There's a way you can read that scripture like you are not supposed to eat of the tree of evil. But the tree had good and evil on it, and we are not supposed to eat it. So God did not want you to know both good and evil, because both good and evil are not God. Everything you call evil is popular evil, is the absence of, you see, there is evil, there is the absence of evil, which is good. And the highest level of evil is good. And God is above that. And so when you think of evil, you are thinking of witches and wizards, which is geographical. Essentially, the poverty of your history allows you to zero into that moment such that at your highest level of articulation of pain, you define that by the excessive behavior of a defeated group, otherwise called diabolism and fetishism. They were there when you were colonized. They were even more raw when you were colonized. Shango was tough at that time. Orunmila was still raw. Babalawos at that time were using real jazz. Today you go and say Babalawo, it can give you safety pin. That's technology. In those days when jazz was jazz, in those days when jazz was raw, we were colonized. And guess what colonized us? Gunpowder. That gunpowder is not even recognized as an instrument of warfare in today's exchange. We now have ground surface to air missiles, intercontinental ballistic missiles, chemical weapons, nuclear weapons, AK-47 assault rifle, assault. They are incapable of killing one person. They disturb the environment when they are in force. That's not what humbled the Baloguns and the leaders of the warriors. They say when the going gets tough, the tough must get going. It used to be true. When the going gets tough, the tough sees collaboration. You have to calm down to say, how do we navigate here? Are you here? The flip of that is that they say, let sleeping dog lie. And that used to be true too, but not by your side. Because essentially, you don't know what the dog is dreaming about. And your leg can just look like the next meat. So let the dog lie, but lie away so that its nuisance has nothing to do with your own balance. Are we on the same page? That is how to think about nation building, guys. As a completely independent instrument such that our peace and our growth cannot be tied to the sanity of a few. And except that the few are thinking straight, then we are lost. I don't think that is God. That cannot be God. He said, know ye not that you have been bought with a price? Be ye not servants of men. It can't be that our highest peace and greatest destiny will be tied helplessly in the hands of a few unguarded people who stay in power, who themselves are victims of their own history. And so you can hate on them all you want, but the truth is, 3 dead bodies trying to enter one coffin is just chaos. Everybody is dead, right? The guys trying to get in on this side are struggling, you are struggling, and so everybody is just looking for peace. At the end of the day, the crisis of any society and the crisis of a nation is the crisis of the family. And when people struggle because of the home they came from, they are going to sincerely struggle either in the private space or in the public space. It's just the way it is. And so prisoners promising freedom is a symposium discussion. It has to be understood because practically it's impossible. Therefore, when you cry and you complain about the leaders that you have, the bigger pain is that you are shocked by what is normal. And in psychology, that is a flavor of insanity. I mean, if I call you your name, you shouldn't express shock. If I say me, you should say, hey, my man. That's what you should say. If I say me, and he says, initially, I will assume he's joking. So I will greet it as humor. So I will say, hey, Nayo, I will not call him again so I can focus on what we are trying to do. Me, if he says, again, I will now give him a face like, Nayo, man, let's do this thing now. And now call him the third time as an investment to into his balance. I will now say, hey, Nayo, if he now goes the third time, I will take 3 steps backward because I'm no longer sure what he will do next. He can bite me, he can jump on me. Because essentially, you don't express shock at what is normal. It's a flavor of lunacy. Pain is normal. When somebody is ill-baked, and we all know that all adult behavior is actually rooted in experiences in childhood. All. So everybody you hate out there, the person in jail, the one sitting in government, those who are stealing, these are all people that have been arrested by their experiences in childhood. Essentially, arrested development. Are we together? The moment you understand that, the next question to ask yourself is, it is the person that is well that can donate blood. So there's no donation coming my way except I prove my wellness. Except I prove my wellness. Now, that wellness is capacity. She said capacity. It's capacity. Now, how does that come? It's to expand that block. 3 people in the world. Those who, don't stress me, bro. I'm looking at time. Stress me. It's telling me time is going. I'm looking at the time. You know I'm a crisis. I'm a crisis, man. So, yeah. Charles, you have used your time. Let me use mine. So I get so easily distracted. You know, little movement can just throw me off. You know, I don't use notes. I don't have the benefit of using notes. 3 people in the world, forgive me. Those who you see every time. Those you see when they are revealed or appointed. Those you never see. Those you never see control those you see when they are appointed, shown, or emerge. Those on the second layer when they are appointed are those who control the masses. Those guys at the back who you don't see are the real King Kong that you need to be thinking about. Now, in an election, you think about voting and you are excited about voting. But these guys are not as interested in your voting. They've arrested it already. And I'll tell you how it has been arrested. Listen to me. So we used to embrace choice. Choices was on ground when slave trade began. Somehow you cannot manipulate the human condition openly. To manipulate it, you must do it codedly. Right? If the day a human being knows you are oppressing him or you are trying to manipulate him, he's going to reject it. So the moment we found out that our choices was being manipulated and controlled, we rejected it. It became colonialism. Using the same instrument, manipulate their choice, control their choice, control their choice. We found out again, we rejected it. For most part of Africa, it became civilian governments. Doing the same thing, it became military governments. Doing the same thing, controlling people's choices. In some places, it became apartheid. Doing the same thing, controlling people's choices. Every time the human being finds out his choices are being controlled, he rejects it. And so we rejected everything, and we keep rejecting it. I don't know if they met. I don't know if there was a meeting. But somewhere along the line, the power bloc said, we can't continue to try to control their choices. Because every time we find out, if we do that, they find out and they reject it. So we have to do something of a higher resolution. What is that? Hire teachers, authority figures, motivational speakers, religious leaders, voices of society, elder statesmen. Hire all of them and encourage them to remind everybody of their power to choose. Tell them never to lose your choice. Control your choices. Let nobody control it. Die than to lose your choice. And make sure you register to vote. Control your votes. Die for your vote. Nobody should buy it. You control your choices. We take a stake in the outcome, in the options. Now, what is the power of your choice when we that control the options have given you two fools? So you are going to vote and protect your vote so well through your choice. But the power centers have given you two fools. You are going to make a very bold and confident choice between two dead alternatives. You are going to be making a choice between bad and worse. And you'll be making that choice with confidence. There's something called confident ignorance. That you know nothing but you are not aware. So you can carry your ignorance with some class. Just because you are branded into a shape that you are unaware of. Now some people control that shape. Now, where I'm going is very simple. Choices are now arrested, guys. So, instead of just voting, we must vote. Register to vote, you must register to vote. I will respect party administration more than even election. Because party administration is where the options emerge from. And then all your power to choose has been arrested by party administration. And so if they give you 4 candidates that have been manipulated and they present to you, what is the power of your choice? Everybody does it. Some people say, I don't like Facebook, it's everybody's place. I prefer Instagram. Well, whether it's Instagram or Facebook, you are paying Mark Zuckerberg anyway. Some people say Toyota is a common car, Lexus is branded. Well, whether it's Lexus or Toyota, you are paying the same company though. GoTV is a common place, I prefer DSTV, the same company. Peak Milk, 3 Crowns, the same company. At the highest level, people take a stake in the options. That is where we have to go. That is how all of us have to think. And ladies and gentlemen, that is higher than leaving the platform to the so-called stakeholders, but actually coming into the stake to take control. But in taking control, it's not through politics, guys. It's productivity, not through government, but through people. And the way that works is entrepreneurship and non-profits, guys. In every nation, in every country that has experienced some form of renaissance or transformation or growth, change has not come because of government, because of politicians. Change has only come because of entrepreneurs and non-profits. I don't know one country that grew because of the independence of its government. I don't know one, and I've studied all. Nations grow because entrepreneurs take responsibility in the environment. Listen to this. At the end of the day, it comes down to you and I. And the way that works is to take a stake in the options. To now say that our destiny will now be in our own hands. And to do that, we have to birth ideas. We have to think. We have to create ideas that solve demonstrable human problems. We have to think bigger than our society limits us to think. The beginning of that is to think global. Is to understand that the test of a material is in its universal appeal. Its global weight. Its universal acceptance. That a shoe has to be a shoe in every country. That a jacket cannot be a jacket in Lagos and be a pencil in Brazil because it crossed border. That you can't be tall in Jos last night and be short in Lagos tomorrow because you flew south. That when you are tall in every country. When you are short in every country. When you are a millionaire in Naira, you can't be a thousandaire in pounds. You were never a millionaire. If you are a millionaire, you have to be a millionaire in every currency. Don't be fooled by the deposit of ignorance in your locale that labels you with a type of crown that is fitted in the head of a one-eyed king in the land of the blind. Is to grow your horizon and say to yourself, this very idea I'm embracing, how is the German looking at it? How is the French looking at it? How is the American looking at it? You see, this is how America is great. The idea that every iota of talent can be supported before resources, but with audacity and a sense of adventure. that we have the right and the freedom as human beings to create something and to make space for it, not just in the world, not just under the sun, but in the head and pockets of every human being living in the world. It has to be a commitment from the very beginning. Rent a space in their heads. Now, to do that requires not money, not a lot of capital, guts, raw audacity, taking those uncommon, unpopular steps, doing those things that raise questions. If everybody pretty much is at peace with what you are doing, I can bet you are not doing much or you are not doing anything at all. If you can't find contrary views and adversaries showing up because of the commitment that you represent, then maybe you are too still. I mean, still for any ocean to even move 1 minute. Are you here? So my counsel is very simple, and I'm going to have to jump because I will give myself about 3 more minutes because light went out. So guys, this is how it works. First of all, we have to be borderless in our thinking. To be global is great, but to be global is managed by so many other factors that will never allow you to have the experience of universality. One of them, for example, is visa. Visa is not an existential will of God. It's a human invention. At the beginning of life, it was not so. Every human being had a freedom to obey one commandment. Be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth. When the instruction was given, there were no visas in the world. Everyone is supposed to be able to move at the speed of choice. Visas became a necessity because of the unguardedness of human beings around territories and borders. And so human beings of their own volition began to raise standards that are now defining how we move in the world, and the beginning of that is approval. So your movement is now subject to the approval of a third party. So relocation made sense for a very long time because people were in survival mode. But to negotiate power in the world, you have to transcend the limits of relocation, otherwise called japa in some places now, and think more about penetration. You see, Microsoft was not trying to come and live in Nigeria. They were just trying to move ideas to Nigeria. Google was not trying to live in Nigeria. Mark Zuckerberg wasn't trying to move his house or move his land. He wouldn't even have the motivation to do it because there's nothing on ground to inspire that. But essentially, he thought that moving ideas was the key. And ideas is what moves in the world. Think about the biggest nations in the world. Japan. You want to think of Japan. Don't think of anything in Japan. Just think of its brands. Toyota, Honda, Mitsubishi, Sony. You can go on and on. Think of South Korea, Kia, Hyundai. You can go on and on. Germany, Mercedes-Benz, Adidas, Opel, Volkswagen. You could go on and on. America, almost everyone in this room can name a US brand and we won't exhaust it. That is why they are the most powerful economy in the world. The intelligence is to understand that ideas can grow and that the human will can be the architect of that growth. But that we have to numb ourselves to the limitations that we see every day. Like she rightly said, we shouldn't think about what is going wrong in Nigeria. We should think about what is going on in Nigeria and what exactly we can do about that. Are we on the same page? So think borderless. Borderlessness is the ability of the human spirit from one spot to spot value anywhere in the world and to be able to create solution blueprints that connect to that value, attracting purchasing power and traction from anywhere in the world, meeting it in headquarters in Lagos or Abuja or in Tokyo or in Banjul or in Conakry or somewhere in Senegal. That is the way it works. Be borderless in your thinking. Now, if you now have the necessity to move your body in your borderlessness, so be it. But before your body moves, your ideas need to move. And that is an intangible thing. The CEO of Rolls-Royce said many years ago, the future will find less and less of developing, underdeveloped and developed nations. The future will find more and more of smarter smartest nations, particularly those who can author their contents in digital format, especially. And so tech has come. The future is a technocracy. It's about people who create ideas, otherwise called technologies, and those who manage them. That is how the future is going to work. And so there's no business in the future. Let me tell you for free. There's no business in the future, and I'm a futurist. I've been doing this thing for over 20 years. There's no business in the future that will not be driven by technology. It doesn't matter what you do. This thing we are doing here in the future is luxury. to have the benefit of human contact in the future, it's going to be very expensive. The future of human contact is no contact at all. So that we have to pay a lot of money to have contact. Now, that will destroy us on many levels. It will alter our condition and our design on many levels, but that's our reality. On a bigger tip, I can explain why that is critical for another superior conversation, particularly if we want to bring the Antichrist to the picture. But the truth is, whether we like it or not, the future has less and less of human contact to guarantee the human function and human malfunction that will breed problems at a higher level that evil is coming to solve, so that there can be peace and peace and peace in the land and it can have its future. So let me land on two ideas. The first of all is, what will entrepreneurs do? What entrepreneurs do is very simple. Embrace brain gain. The diaspora must understand its own responsibility. I am convinced by the Spirit of God and by facts and study that no nation in the world will grow without its diaspora. Diaspora has always been the blessing of nations. If you think about it, everybody you know in the Bible, from Joseph, diaspora, Isaac, diaspora, Abraham, diaspora, Ezra, Daniel, diaspora. Even the idea of Jesus coming down, diaspora, that God came down, diaspora. Jesus went to Egypt, diaspora, coming back home. Israel being formed in a day, diaspora. There is no nation that has grown without a collaboration and organization of its weighty diaspora. The brain drain that we'll experience has now been converted into a potential brain gain. And that gain must be understood by organizing to wake up the diaspora to its socio-economic and political destiny in the continent. The way that we work is that every year, about $48 billion is sent home in remittances. That $48 billion is so huge, it's the biggest income in the continent. But guess what is coming to solve? Welfare economics. Money for shoe, for house, for rents, and all of that. And we know that anybody living abroad sending money home is sending less than 5% of his income. About 95% is still sitting dark in his host country. Now, if we mobilize Africans to begin to understand that they can repatriate just 20% without losing the 5% that they have before, take another 15% and repatriate it home. But that repatriation now is not for welfare economics, it's for investment in ideas. Such that it's not just Americans who are investing in Florida Wave or in Jumia or in any of these countries. Africans can pull resources together and be the one funding the local ideas here. That is the association between local ideas and global relevance. The idea that we will pull funds in our brain gain and bring it home to fund ideas. So we need more incubators made by Africans for Africans, more accelerators made for Africans by Africans, intentionally searching for ideas, investing in ideas. I don't have time to give you our template in Africa House in Dallas. I'll leave that. But the truth is, that is what's going to work. And then again, the moment we begin to understand that, we push our non-profits to begin to fight for the right ideas. We need about 25 advocacy groups fighting for the welfare of the police force. We need another maybe 26 welfare groups fighting for recycling alone. We need another 26 non-profits fighting for the sanity of our veterans in the military. You see, we have to dimensional our problems into measurable, usable, transferable, and containable, solvable ideas. And that comes when visionaries like you and I take responsibility for those small sectors and begin to attack those ideas as commitments. Sacrifices, he said. Service, he said. That is the way it has to be. We become idea shepherds, taking responsibility at a higher level, developing helicopter view over our issues, and choosing which of them we will solve, the ones we will instruct our children to solve, and the entrepreneurs will take their place by creating ideas. The guys with capacity, with businesses here, we form funds and fund those ideas, take equity in those ideas, and watch them grow. We don't need a lot of unicorns. Just the right one, creating the right jobs for young people, can transform this economy forever. The creativity that comes from that is what forces government to negotiate and collaborate with the private sector. It's not going to come by arguing and by fighting and by hating on government officials. It's not going to come. Our brain must mentor evil, or evil will dominate us forever. If you are wise and evil cannot find your wisdom, wise enough to submit to seek guidance and direction, you are still weak in the policy and powerless in the system. I hope I've helped. Thank you.